Hi there, and welcome to the AMACO workshop, Press and Print. Today, we're going to show you how to create some great texture and how to build a piece after you've created that texture, plus show you how to do a little printmaking to boot. So let's get started. These are the materials you're going to need. You're going to need craft foam, just a regular sheet of craft foam, one sticky back craft foam. You're going to need velvet underglaze ink. Remember, you make this yourself. You just let the underglaze sit out to dry until it gets that consistency. You'll need some sponges. You'll need a brayer, gift card or scraper to smooth the clay, wood modeling tool or popsicle stick, a bamboo skewer or a pen tool, a fettling knife, a soft paintbrush, a pair of scissors, and a little bit of saran wrap. You'll also need some paint brushes. You'll need some velvet underglaze. Remember that you're going to make your own ink, so just pour it into a shallow container. It evaporates into printing ink. It's so easy. You'll also need Teacher's Palette light glazes. We'll talk about how that works on your printing and the texture at the end of our little demonstration. It's really a great product. You also need clay, of course. We're using AMACO 25M art clay. I love this clay. It's a white earthenware. It works great. You'll need some newsprint, and you'll need these fabulous forms, pool noodles. So figure out which one you want to work with, what size, and let's get started. The first thing you want to do is to cut a strip. The white foam craft foam that you're looking at is about the height of the pool noodle and long enough to wrap around. And then the other sheet of sticky back craft foam, I'm just cutting it into shapes and then positioning it where I want to go. I don't stick it down at first. I want to see my design before I do that, and I really strongly suggest you do that with students because they're always like go, 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 fast, 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 hurry, peel it and stick it. But this is the time to talk about some principles and elements of design, whatever you choose in your classroom, but use this as a teachable moment to shift these parts around and really get a great design. Don't be in a rush. Then, once you've figured out what you want, then have students peel it off and stick it down. Notice I have a little bit of room in between each shape. So you don't want the shapes to butt up next to each other, but you also don't want a big empty gap, because I'm going to show you how to do texture, but we're also going to do some printing, and the printing works best if you don't have a big gap where the background's going to print. And you'll see why in just a minute. So here we're going to stick them all down. And remember, you don't have to be in a rush with this. You know, really get what you want and then stick it down. If you don't have what you want, peel them up and stick them again. They're going to be just fine. Do whatever you have to get the design that you want. Again, this is as tall as a pool noodle and big enough to wrap around that pool noodle. Now let's get our clay ready. You're going to roll out a slab. You want to smooth it. You want to always, before you print, make sure things are smooth. Put it with that cut side down, and I usually use a roller. You can just use your hands if you need to. I find that that works a little better. And wow, look at that texture. I love craft foam. Craft foam is great with clay because it doesn't stick, and you can ink it up to print with, which you'll see in just a minute. Now, let's use our brayer to ink up our craft foam to get a print. You want your underglaze, again, to sit out to a consistency of block printing ink. You don't have to mix anything into it. And this is why you put your shapes where you didn't have some big gaps. It prints a little bit better. And again, you're inking up on a separate piece of newsprint so that that ink doesn't get everywhere. But if you have printmaking supplies in your classroom, why not do this? Now put it face side down. Be careful it doesn't slip. You got to really watch it when you go to put it down and really push it into place. But if you're careful, it doesn't, and I love that because you have the indentation and you have the print. Remember to tell students that this is not silkscreen. They won't get a totally solid black on there. It's a little bit more weathered looking like you get with the print. I love it. I think it looks great. Just make sure that they know when you go to do it with them. Another great way to do it is with sponges. If you don't have brayers or you kind of don't want to mess with that, kids can take the printing ink and just sponge it right onto the craft foam. You can get this kind of what they call ombre effect, really just teaching value. You can talk about analogous colors. Don't worry if they sponge a little bit into the background. It really doesn't matter in the print. Just have at it. Just make sure that you have some everywhere so that it'll print onto the clay. Then take your clay, put it face side down. Again, be careful it doesn't slide on you, and really press it with a roller so it'll indent the clay and you get this beautiful print. Love it. Now let's make our form. We're going to cut a little bit off the top, and we're going to leave a lot at the bottom though. Leave about 1.5 inches. Then we're going to take a little saran wrap and just clean up that top edge. Now where I'm cleaning is going to be the top of your form. And we're going to then take our pool noodle and we're going to wrap it with paper and tape it. So I did tape it here, you'll see in a minute. And we're going to take that, because we want to make sure we get that pool noodle out of there. We're going to smooth both sides of our slab. We have to smooth the back side because that's the inside of our cup or container or cylinder, whatever we're making. We're going to clean that top edge and we're going to overlap it. You want to overlap it about 1/4 inch, enough for it to stay pretty secure. And what I do too with students sometimes is I have them press a 45-degree angle instead of cut one, because sometimes they have difficulty with that. It's a simple thing, but it may help them. And then go in there, score both sides, and you're going to see that it still wasn't a really good fit. So I just quickly trimmed some more off. That's very common. And I just press the angle again, score a little bit of slip so that I have a little bit of an overlap, and it's very securely attached. I love the look of the seam, and I don't do a lot of cleanup. I do use a damp paintbrush, and that really cleans it up pretty good without taking a tool or your fingers to it. Pull your pool noodle out, pull your paper out, and you have a cylinder. Now I'm telling you, these cylinders can make all kinds of shapes. I mean, this is the greatest basic shape to make in many things with students. We're going to make a triangular foot on this. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to just put our hands into the shape of a triangle. Notice where the seam is. The seam is not on one of the points of the triangle. Go in there, score it, slip it, pinch it really good together. But no matter how much you pinch, sometimes you cannot get that center. So take a little ball of clay, flatten it out so it's a little button, and put it on to cover that little bottom of that form. Make sure everything's pretty clean and well attached. You can always clean it later when it's leather hard. So you just want to make sure everything's well attached and that you've smoothed any, if it kind of pulled on those corners, a little tear, just go in there and smooth them off. Now we're going to do the inside. Roll a really small coil about the size of a pencil and just drop them I score and put a little slip, and I drop them in where those creases are. And then I take a popsicle stick or a wood modeling tool, and I just go in there and just smear it in pretty good. I just want to make sure they're attached. It has a nice smooth bottom. Then I'm going to take a paintbrush and I'm going to clean it up with a little bit of paintbrush because it's frankly hard to get your hands in there. Again, you'll see I've left the seam. You can smooth it out as much as you want to. You do want it to be clean, maybe with a damp paintbrush, but wow, look at this thing. So easy, and it looks great. Now let's build with our printed slab, because we don't want to smear that print. So we're going to cover it with the plastic. We're going to do exactly the same thing, peeling back the plastic where we need to get the clay to seal together. And we're going to go in here and we're going to pinch the bottom again and score it, slip it, put the little button on it. But with that saran wrap left on that surface, you'll make sure that you didn't smear anything, because you have to assemble this while your slab is still moist. Also, what you might keep in mind is if students print one day and don't build till the next, really sandwich it between some plastic so it's really airtight, and that slab will usually stay pretty good for you to print one day and construct the next. So we're going to go in here and clean with a paintbrush again. Wow, done. Looks great. Let's talk about glazing. On the orange cup over there, we used TP on the inside. That's Teacher's Palette. So there's Teacher's Palette and Teacher's Palette Light. Teacher's Palette is solid and opaque. You have to think about it like acrylic paint. Very opaque. You put 3 coats. It's solid, but they do mix like paint. So if you mixed red and yellow, you will get orange. On the exterior, we use Teacher's Palette Light. Only 1 coat because you want it translucent. And Teacher's Palette Light does 2 things really well. It goes over texture, really showcases it. So if you have young kids that really slop on glaze and have their clay really handled, it's beautiful. And it works great over that printed surface because it shows the underglaze. You only put 1 coat on there. Now, if I'm glazing over a printed surface, sometimes what I do is I mix 50-50 Teacher's Palette Light and an AMACO clear glaze. It can be LG10 or F10, and I eyeball it. I don't do a lot of measuring, and I mix it 50-50. It makes it even more translucent, and the color's still there, just slightly paler, really shows off that underglaze design. This one, we put the Teacher's Palette blue-green, very solid on the inside, and it shows you the underglazes that I used to print with. And I used a Teacher's Palette Light, I used the LG10 clear on the outside. So this one is just with the clear over that. The Art Clay 25M is a white clay body, so you have to remember it looks gray when you're printing, but it's going to end up white. And then, boy, it really shows off that printing so well. I hope you've enjoyed our workshop. And if you need any other information, or if you'd like to find more information about making your printing inks, or how to make forms, or more printing on clay, go to YouTube and go to the AMACO Brent. It has so many YouTubes on different processes that we've been doing. You're going to find tons of things to do in your classroom. Also, don't forget AMACO.com. If you go to the lesson plan page, tons of lesson plans. You'll have so much material to use in your classroom. It's incredible. Thanks for watching. See you next time.